Hi. Hi. I mean, I'm scared because I'm looking at your shirt right now. Let's talk about fall season. It is obviously getting cozy, right? It's about getting inside and playing games. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Perhaps unwind after a long day with a video game or two. Now, you saw him. This was a bit of a teaser for you. You saw his face, and now I'm going to properly introduce him. Video game expert Ajay Fry is here with your list of what top scary video games to play at this time of year?
Yeah, some great scary games to enjoy this Halloween season.
Also, did you purchase that shirt for this, or you have it already?
This is just my fashion sense. This is just me.
Okay, so let's get down to it. What is your first suggestion for a scary game?
The first one is incredibly popular, at least it was over the pandemic. It is called Among Us, and it is a fantastic social game for 5 to 15 players to play online or locally as well. It's available on every platform, on PC, on your mobile phone. As you can see, it's set in this cartoonish, colorful space station, and you play as these cute little characters. And among your crew, Among Us, is an imposter who is out to eliminate other players. And the fun of the game begins when someone discovers the eliminated player.
Ooh.
A vote is called, and that's where a discussion happens, where you make accusations like, hey, I think Lindsey was playing a little bit sus.
Really?
You eliminate another player. If they were the imposter, yay, you win. The 10-minute game is over. But if they weren't, the imposter can strike again.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is a very fun game. It's a great loop of like tension and then release. And most of the gameplay is pretty simple because
I was going to say, even the graphics look pretty, I mean, in my word, like a basics, like an old school
It is very basic, very simple. So if you're not a big gamer, this is a great one. It's easy to jump in with. But what makes it fun is that discussion element of the game. It's very social. It's all about talking, about lying, manipulating the other players. So it's incredibly satisfying. And even though it's only been out for a few years, they've continued to update it, adding in little new gameplay elements and roles for characters. So, you know, there are some scary elements in here. So I wouldn't recommend it for anyone under 10.
Under 10.
But it's a great game to play between dinner and going out trick-or-treating.
Okay, love it. All right, what about Dead by Daylight?
Yes.
Ominous.
This one is very ominous. This one is very scary. It is sort of similar to Among Us in that it is, you know, a multiplayer game for 4 people. But unlike Among Us, the bad guy in this one is very obvious. It's actually created by an indie studio called Behavior Interactive out of Montreal, so it's a Canadian game. Yeah, you play this one online. There you can see the Demogorgon, which is one of the playable killer characters in the game. So in each round, you can either play as a killer or a survivor. If you're the survivors, you're trying to turn on generators in order to be able to escape the killer who you're running away from or hiding from. And as they get closer and closer, their heartbeat sound grows and grows until they're basically right on top of you. And it will get your heart pumping. It's essentially like a skinned version of a game of tag because there's not a lot of combat in this one. If you're the killer, you're using your special powers to track down the survivors while they're running away from you, but they can't fight back. They can topple things over to get in your way or jump over things that you can't because you're the killer. And like horror movie tropes, you just can't move properly.
How's the sound in this?
It is great, and it is so critical too.
I was gonna say.
In fact, there are these little like micro interactive moments when you're trying to repair those generators where you hear this sudden like ching, like, you know, that horror trope sound, ching, and you have to press a button exactly in the right time in order to be able to repair the generator to get out of the game. So the sound design is fantastic, and there's so many characters from iconic horror franchises to play as. You saw the Demogorgon there from Stranger Things. You can also play as Nancy.
Wait, or as I've heard, is this the one where you can play as Nicolas Cage?
As Nicolas Cage himself.
Explain the connection here, because I'm not
The connection here is it's Nicolas Cage. He's a legend of horror films, and why not play as Nicolas Cage?
That is hilarious.
They were just, you know, handing out licenses to various franchises. You can play as Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers.
Or Nicolas Cage.
Or as Nicolas Cage. There's one of the scary original characters you can play as right there. Wow, that's a lot of violence for this hour of the morning. I wasn't sure what viz we would be using here for this segment, but...
so be prepared for that. So age-wise, what are you thinking here?
Probably 13 and up. There's some pretty gory stuff in this one, but if you're a horror fan, you haven't played Dead by Daylight yet, now is the perfect season for it.
Okay, so let's talk about a remake of a video game from the 90s. What's this one?
Going all the way back to 1992, and in the game, we're going back to the 1920s. This is a reimagining of Alone in the Dark, which is one of the original survival horror games. There you can see the graphics. It is very spooky, but I wouldn't say that this one is as gory or as brutal as franchises like Resident Evil or Silent Hill. This is a single-player, story-driven narrative. You play as a private investigator, as brilliantly brought to life by Stranger Things star David Harbour, who plays Jim Hopper. And then you can also play as his client, who you see right there. There's David Harbour.
Nice.
But you can also play as his client, who's brought to life by Jodie Comer. So you got some big Hollywood stars in this one.
Cool.
And it's really cool to go back in time in the sense of like playing this classic horror game that's been reimagined. There is a little bit of combat in there with guns and some melee weapons, but there's also a difficulty slider, so if that isn't your thing, you can make the game a lot easier.
Cool.
It's mostly just solving puzzles and sleuthing as you...
I think this is up my alley.
Yeah.
Of all the three, I think this is the one.
This is the one I would recommend if you want to just cuddle up, you know, play a cozy, scary game for a couple of nights with a loved one. There's no multiplayer, so it's couch co-op, so if you want to, like, pass the controller back and forth. Yeah, that's
all
how you do
right.
it.
I like it. Yeah, that sounds great. Oh,
Alone in the dark.
Alone in the dark.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween, by the way. Thanks for stopping
Lindsay.
by today.
Yeah.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.